So let's talk about creating YouTube thumbnails. YouTube thumbnails are extremely important to sort of show off what the video is going to be about. So you can search any YouTube channel on here like Good Mythical Morning or Node or really any channel you can think of and look at their thumbnails. Look at what they capture. Let's also look at Corridor right here as well. And you can see that the thumbnails are something that shows off the video. They're the visual aspect of this list on YouTube. So you know, there's a bunch of text on the right, but a lot of people don't even look at the text. It's like if you have a picture book. You look at the picture first, then maybe read the text. And so what you want is you want to create a good impression on the first sort of look at your video. That's what's going to get you some more clicks. It's going to direct people to your video because they look at it and they're like, hey, that might be a video that I want to watch. There's a very fine line also between having these sort of draw people in and being clickbait. Putting an image on your video that isn't actually in the video or even related to your video in the sole purpose of just getting clicks is clickbait. And you can actually be reported and basically have your videos taken down and have strikes against your account if you do that often enough. So you have to sort of find a line. You have to find what is too far. Some of the major YouTubers do it, but they sort of have some gray area. They've learned where they can do it, how far they can push it. And so it kind of comes down to your choice, what you want to do, what you're comfortable with. Just understand that the more clickbait it becomes, the more risk that you take and the more chance that you have of not even building an audience, just having people view your video, dislike it, and leave. So that comes up to you as well. But with thumbnails, what's important is to capture the essence of the video so that people will basically see what they're getting into and they want to get into it. With my thumbnails, what I do is I create some text on here. I show the effect in the background. So for example, this is the parallax effect. And then I just put some text that shows people what they're going to be getting into. A good strategy is to have a thumbnail that doesn't capture the text. So for example, or something that's tied to the text but doesn't exactly say exactly the same thing. So over here, we have the title is I'm buying a tank and it shows a salesman buying a tank. So it shows what the video is about, but it doesn't say over here, I'm buying a tank on here as well. You don't want sort of two of these right next to each other. You want them to accent each other, but not to copy and paste on one another. So for example, the full title to this is How to Create a Parallax Effect in Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2018. What I do though is I like to capture the essence of what someone's going to learn in my thumbnail. So sometimes that is directly, that comes from the title. Sometimes it isn't. So for other tutorials, maybe this text isn't going to be in the title, but it's going to be the essence of what you're learning. So I tell people they're going to be creating a parallax effect. And that's as simple as you need to get it. You don't want to put all that extra stuff because the smaller and smaller your font gets, the harder it gets to read and the less it stands out, the less sort of general idea that people get about the video. When people scroll down and they find this thumbnail, they know exactly what they're getting. They're creating a parallax effect and this is the effect they're creating. So if this is what they wanted to create, they're like, yep, that's what I want, and they click on it. And so then they watch the video and hopefully you've taught what you've actually showed in here or you've shown something that, you know, that the thumbnail alluded to. And so what other stuff that I do is I put a border around it and I show the sort of the technology that I'm using. In this case, it is Premiere Pro. And so you want to make sure that if your thumbnail is small, it's still readable. So even about here, maybe a mobile's right there, you can still read it pretty fine. If I went in here and I added new text down here, let's say some small text, right, like so, and then I zoomed it all the way out, you'll notice the smaller and smaller I get, the harder it gets to read. And about here, which is about the normal size of a YouTube thumbnail, it gets extremely difficult to read. You can't even read it. So make sure your text is big enough that people can see it. Now, you might be thinking, how exactly do I create a thumbnail? Well, there are a bunch of different ways to create it. I create mine in Photoshop, but Photoshop is a really hard technology to learn right off the bat, especially if all you're going to be doing is creating thumbnails. So what's kind of neat is that YouTube actually has a thumbnail creator that they have added with their some of the recent updates. So if you go and edit any of your video, you can actually get to this feature. So for example, on my most recent tutorial, how to create an arrow wipe transition, you see now they actually have a button down here that says create thumbnail. And what you can do is you can scan through your video and you can find a video still and then you can work with that. So for example, let's say we wanted to go with right here, like this is what we want to do. So we say, yep, we click next. And now we have the ability to add shapes, images, text, templates, anything that we want on here, easy and quick, and it's all within YouTube. You can do it all right here. You can click next and you can see what the thumbnail will look like. If you like it, go ahead and click that save thumbnail button. So this is the easiest way by far. If you don't have any of that technology with Photoshop and everything like that, definitely go with this. You can create thumbnails really fast, really simply, and get some really high quality templates. If you want to go a little bit higher, a little bit sort of higher level where you can actually cut things out of video and stuff, you'll want to use something like Photoshop or maybe GIMP. And the easiest way to find tutorials on that is really just to search how to create a thumbnail for YouTube and then put the program name here. So for example, in GIMP. You click on that, it's going to have a bunch of different tutorials on how to do this in GIMP. GIMP is free. It's sort of like a free Photoshop, a little easier to use. And like I said, it's free. If you want to use Photoshop, put Photoshop right there. You can learn how to make one in there as well. But on the marketing side, on the SEO side, those are the key elements. Make sure it has something that captures the video, something that draws people in, but don't go too far where you're, just basically false advertising. Also, make sure your text is large enough to read. You don't want it have too small of text. And with the title, make sure that it accents, it sort of goes with the title, but it isn't a direct copy. You want to be able to show them what is going on and use the visual aspect of this thumbnail.